Ready to go? Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the March 4th regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors for San Benito County. If you'll all stand, and will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Dela Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ready?
If I can have a motion to acknowledge the certificate of posting?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And we'll move on to presentations and recognitions. Supervisor Barrios?
Yes, and if we could have Ruth Erickson come up, please, to the podium. There she is. Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning.
It is with great honor that I present to my friend Ruth Erickson this certificate of recognition for 30 years on the board of the Friends of the San Benito County Free Library and a volunteer and advocate since 1983. I have always known Ruth to be very involved with many, many things in the community. I can remember having my children in grade school and Ruth being there and coming in period costume to entertain the kids and to talk about history. And I mean, she has been everywhere. And Ruth, we so appreciate you. For more than anything, it's your caring of this community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, I want to thank everybody for this recognition. I do appreciate it. Actually, Margie and I were talking about this last year, but unfortunately my brother died, and I had to go back to England, and I was there for 8 months. So a year later, we're celebrating today. It's been my honor and privilege to serve the county library through thick and thin. Most people know some of the ups and downs, but we're on an up now. And the community has benefited greatly, and I'm hoping that those who can either get off work or who are not working would like to come to our tea. I'm advocating even now, to the 21st of this month, we have our annual tea with the Women's Club of Hollister. It's a fundraiser. It's also a fundraiser. We have a lot of fun at the event. Margie and her family are usually there in support with a whole table. So please, I'm inviting all of you. We have information out there on in your lobby, on the revolving rack. And you can call for tickets at 831-205-1373. Or we have tickets with us today. There's several people out here in the audience with tickets. We never miss an opportunity. But thank you very much. I appreciate everyone for this award. Thank you.
Well, we have another presentation for you.
And I believe we have a presentation from Senator Canella's office.
Oh, thank you.
Good to see you. On behalf of the California State Senate and Senator Anthony Canella's office, we'd like to recognize Ruth for her, it's actually 31, right?
31 years now.
Ruth was only 10 when she started.
Thank you.
And, but it's an honor. Ruth and I have worked together through the years, and she's not shy about letting us know anything and how we can help. But Ruth, that's an amazing amount of time and amazing amount of caring and dedication. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Nora, if you could come up. She has a
Oh,
little
my
presentation for you as well. And I'm going to take this with me so we can get the other signature.
Okay. Thank you, Nora. Oh, thank you so much. Oh.
Thank you, Ruth, for all of your love, your kindness, your graciousness, your spirit of I can do. Certainly, you have been an example for me, never to give up, but always to keep trying and always to have faith that things will change.
Well, very welcome. Thank you so much.
And the staff also sends this with all of their love and all the
Thank you.
appreciation for every second that you invested with your passion into the development and the importance of library service in this community.
Thank
I
you.
love you, Ruth.
Thank you. Thank you.
We all love her.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations again.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and I hope now for another 30 years. I'll be close to 100 then, but I'll be around. I'm too honorary to go.
Thank you, Ruth. With that, we are going to go into a closed session. County Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Supervisors will now adjourn into closed session to discuss agenda items number 1 and 2 on today's agenda. Agenda item number 1 is to confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and the significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision 2D of section 54956.9 in one case. This closed session is authorized by section 54956.9 D231 of the Government Code. In regards to agenda item number 2, the board will meet and confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and the initiation of litigation pursuant to subdivision D4 of section 54956.9 of the Government Code in one case.
Is there any public comment on these two items? Seeing none, we will adjourn to closed session.
Just one second.
I'm Bill Ritz with
No, I'm buying tickets. Here, Mary. $240. I'll just wait for the other ticket. No sense writing you another check. Whatever. Doesn't matter. As long as I get it, I'll be good. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. is and what isn't. And some of those, yeah, and then some of those, actually, I deleted right before the request. Yeah, you didn't want to be selected. Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, everything's set up. This is the guy right here. Just click on that. That's your PowerPoint.
Okay.
If you wanted to do the PowerPoint
Yeah.
presentation. So she'll turn this on and put the screen on. We're going to do one other thing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thanks very much. What you should do on that side. That's what is the issue. You guys are dumb.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order. County Council, if you will report out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session to discuss agenda item number 1, to confer with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and the significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 of section 54956.9 in one case. This closed session is authorized by section 54956.9 D231. At this time, the board took no reportable action. In regards to agenda item number 2, the board met and conferred with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and the initiation of litigation pursuant to subdivision D4 of section 54956.9 in one case. At this time, the board took no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. This is an opportunity to address the board on any items of interest not appearing on the agenda. No action may be taken unless provided by Government Code Section 54954.2. And before I open up the public comment, my colleague's going to get tired of me reading this list, but I'm going to go over a list of rules I expect to be adhered to for all public comments, both at the public comment time and for any agenda item. And those rules are: each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes. You are to address the members of the Board of Supervisors, not the people in the audience. I do not allow borrowing of minutes from someone else. There will be no second trips to the microphone unless asked to by a member of the Board of Supervisors. No shouting, talking, or asking questions from your seat in the audience. No clapping, no cheering. No disrespecting any members of the Board of Supervisors, staff, or another member of the audience. I am not going to allow this meeting to become unruly, and I will do anything I deem necessary to and including emptying the room to maintain order. With that, do we have anybody for public comment?
Marty Richmond?
Good morning, Marty Richmond from Hollis. I assure you I intend to be ruly, not unruly. I'd like to make some comments about your earlier award. I wanted to thank the Friends of the Library, first of all. I don't get an opportunity during the award portion because a lot of us do flash and dash for supporting things, but the Friends of the Library are in there grinding away every day, and they've been doing it for years and years and years, many of the times unrecognized. So congratulations to Ruth, and congratulations to the Friends of the Library in general. I also wanted to say, as you probably all know already, the Hollister City Council voted last night to support the manufacture or the making of a BMX bike park, or I don't know what they call it, roller park, where the tennis courts were in Memorial Park, and they're going. It's going to be an issue coming to you, and they're going to be asking for your support. It's a recreation item that does get used. I go by Memorial Park all the time and see how busy it is over there, and there's one place you can put your recreation funds that you know that the people would appreciate it, and it will get used, unlike some recreation things that we think is going to be good, but the public, turns out they don't like it. So I encourage you to, if possible, find the funds to support that item. And I also recently wrote all of you about our unfortunate position of being the last place on the transit occupancy tax list. County over county, we were the one with the smallest per capita return. I hope we can do better in the future. I want to thank the Hollister City Planning Commission and anything that the county did to help get the approval moving along for the Fairfield Inn. And I hope that in the future we get other opportunities to do more tourism, and that it has your support. And I think your idea of doing a T-bib or whatever it's called deserves a lot more discussion, and I think it has possibilities, and that there are ways you can work it out that would be good for everybody in the county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marty. Anyone else?
Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Marvin Jones from Hollister. If this closed session we just experienced was unique, one-time item, I can understand that. But if we're going to have closed session at the beginning of each meeting, we've got 45 people in here, and we've had them setting up for 45 minutes. That's 30 man-hours of cushion time. It's going to be awkward to get a lot of public support, or at least participation, if we have to sit around for 45 minutes waiting for y'all to have a closed session where there's no reportable information. So I hope this was a one-time thing, and if it was, that's just fine, but I hope you don't make it routine. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to address this board on an item not on the agenda?
There's one.
Yes, sir.
My name is Kizan, the board. Like when I called the cruise, Hami asked me for last Monday. He never responded back. I thought on the cell phone, and he said it's on the way, and never called back. And then the one thing that between city and county, if you look at the tax dollars, a lot of ways of spending. And then I'm hoping when you open the 2-acre recycle thing over the Johnson Road over there, I want you guys to think about to be private sectors, to be businesses, and we guys think about waiving impact fees. To be more business in this, and you guys can't over there, Johnson Road. And then I talked to Joe Gonzalez over there. Have you guys ever thought, because there are 57,000 people that live in the county, and there are 37,000 to 47,000 people live in the city. So I wonder if you guys thought to go to Joe Gonzalez, if you guys think about how people vote in the city, in the county, together.
If you can summarize now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment period. Mr. Espinoza?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we do have a few department head announcements for you this morning. One is we're going to go ahead and continue items 13, 14, and 15 on our agenda to a later date. SAIU negotiating team still hasn't signed off on the MOU, so we can't move forward until that occurs. So just want to make sure the board's aware of that. We also have another announcement by our Health and Human Services Director, James Riding Sword, and he's going to be talking a little bit about the homeless.
Morning.
Morning.
Actually, I have three things. First is to introduce you to Lynn Mello, who is our Director of Nursing, who came to work for us in November. Lynn actually had her first public health nursing experience in San Benito County and graduated from Gavilan College and then came back to work here. Then she went on into the Peace Corps, where she was assigned to a small village in Paraguay and came back to the community with that experience and also being bilingual. She worked again for the Public Health Department, and then she went to Santa Cruz County and worked for about 10 years, again in public health, but gained valuable experience while she was there in child welfare services, which is very helpful to us in the department. So we're actually very happy to welcome Lynn back to San Benito County as our Director of Nursing, and we're looking forward to her helping us move forward on the issues that face this county. Lynn, would you like to say a couple words?
Sure. I'm just pleased to be back at the Health Department, and I'm hoping to see some good things happen in public health and sort of rejuvenate the Health Department. Thank you.
Supervisor Patel?
Yes, I want to welcome you back to San Benito County, Lynn, and known you for a number of years, and I'm really excited about you rejoining our team, and really am excited about public health, and I know your experience is just going to add to the service level to our community.
Thank you, Supervisor Patel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
This second item, just as a matter of information, is effective March the 1st, we began a subsidized employment program at Health and Human Services. So what does that mean? That means that we are now in a position where we can place probably up to about 10 families at a time from CalWorks into 6-month training slots that are fully paid for by us with the employer. The goal of those training slots is to help people move from welfare into regular employment, and so we're working with the Community Services and Workforce Development Division to make that a successful program. Where it's been tried before and where it's been done before, the success has been great, and it's supported by the state legislature. So we just wanted to let you know that that started on the 1st of March. Okay?
Thank you.
And then the third item is, a week ago Monday, Mayor Velasquez and I were able to attend a housing summit, homeless summit, in Santa Barbara. And what we learned there, I think, is information that will help us to move forward, and we'll discuss this more at Intergovernmental Committee on Thursday. But just one item that kind of came out to me is the cost of having a chronically homeless person living on the streets nationwide on an annual basis per person is $70,000 to $150,000 a year. The cost of taking that same person and putting them into permanent housing and wrapping some services around them nationwide is $10,000 to $20,000 a year. So I think we have some work to do to talk about how we begin to approach permanent solutions for the homeless in our community. So thank you.
Supervisor Patel?
Speaking of the homeless, I think that is one of the biggest concerns I think we all share on the board, and the temporary housing that we have available is very seasonal, and I know we've had a discussion as far as how we could address it from the county to make it more of a 12-month operation. Do you have, I guess you're applying for maybe some grant funding to help us resolve more of a permanent type of housing for homeless? Is that what's happening right now?
We are working on that, and we'll be discussing that with the Intergovernmental Committee on Thursday. But I think that what we need to understand is that if we really want to move to a permanent housing solution, It's going to take us some planning and some time to get there.
Yes, and, I hope that, the dialogue between everybody that's involved in facilities, administration, and that we're all working and communicating as best we can to, come up with ideas to
Yes.
go forward with that.
That is our goal.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
We have a few more announcements as well coming from the county. We have Joe Paul Gonzalez. He's our auditor, recorder, and elections director, and he has an announcement for us.
Good morning, Chair, Board of Supervisors. Actually, today I'm here as your register of voters to give you a little bit of an election update, what's going on. At the state level, 14 candidates have been qualified for the June primary for the office of governor. And in addition, there are 2 proposed propositions. Proposition 41, which is a proposed legislative bond act that stems from AB 639, it's Bettis bill. It is the Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Bond Act of 2014. This is kind of apropos, given the previous speaker was, addressing the homeless problem. Perhaps that bond act will provide some relief in dealing with that issue. The second proposition is Prop 42. It is a legislative constitutional amendment pertaining to public information. You probably are aware that this is something that has been coming down the pike because of SB 90 and other issues with regard to reimbursement of those costs. The elections office is in receipt of a notice of intention to circulate a petition pertaining to the prohibition of fracking within the county of San Benito. As you know, that initiative process is a long and arduous process, fraught with all kinds of pitfalls that, any misstep could end that process abruptly. The current deadline for submission of petitions for the marijuana regulation and taxation initiatives that were presented in September, that deadline is fast approaching of April 2nd. And this date completes the 180-day period after which the ballot title and summary was delivered by the county counsel's office to the petitioner. And just a reminder that the deadline to file for candidacy and nomination for elective offices is this Friday, March 7th. And if the incumbent fails to file, that deadline gets extended by 5 calendar days. So the deadline would be Wednesday, March 12th. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
The last announcement we have is from our librarian, Nori Conte.
Good morning, board members and members of the public. I have a couple of announcements. As you know, April 13th through the 19th is National Library Week. We would like for you to save April the 14th, starting at 6. We will be having our celebration of the annual celebration of the stars, and this is an appreciation for all of the volunteers that help at the library. We do this annually for them, so you're all invited to attend this celebration where we honor our volunteers. Also, you will be receiving more information regarding National Library Week activities. There's some exciting things happening at the library. One of the things that I'm really pleased about is that next week, our community members that have a library card will be able to go into their library website and they will be able to learn about technology. It's called Treehouse, and you will be able to have information. This brings technology education that is affordable to the community. Individuals will have an opportunity to learn how to build their own WordPress website. We'll be able to develop language code skills that would be able to help them to be job ready. Even how to start your own business will be available for you. We will be sending out press releases and information out to the Workforce Investment Board regarding this new service that the library will be having. Also, each one of you received the information regarding the zip books. Please take advantage of the zip book process. We were one of 16 libraries that was selected by the state library to kick off this program, and it's a pilot program. And what it is if you come to our library and we do not have a book that you are looking for, please let us know. We will order that book from Amazon and have it delivered to your home free of charge. You then bring it back to the library when you're done with it. So those are the announcements that I had for you, but I'm really excited about Treehouse and the benefit that it is going to allow our residents that have library cards to be able to have affordable technology education at their fingertips. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora.
That's all the announcements that we have.
Thank you. I'll move on to board announcement. Supervisor De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Lisa. I saw her this morning, but Lisa from COG, we're going to have a red ribbon cutting day at front of San Benito Health Foundation. We are constructing a new bus stop shelter, and it's more of a thank you to all the members of the community who participate because one, those kind of bus stops are being built throughout San Benito County, and it's a good thing for our community, especially for our senior citizens, which one day I will become one too, and two, through grant efforts, it was possible. It's going to be today at 4 o'clock, pending weather and what time we get out of this board meeting too, Mr. Chair. So if we do get out by 4 o'clock, I would encourage members of the community to go to San Benito Health Foundation and participate and have an opportunity to take a picture with all the members of the community. If not, we'll try to make it some other day, but let's hope it doesn't rain, and let's hope that the meeting does conclude by 3 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Rivas?
I have no comments, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Vitello?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one thing, basically a request for the board to hear and allow me to work with perhaps County Council in developing a resolution for a joint authority agreement working with Caltrans for the Highway 156 project. That project is moving forward. It's certainly not my intent to slow it down or change the basic project, but I feel that the county and stakeholders should be part of the final process for some of the design concerns, and also the agreement on how we will accept the frontage road that is the current highway, and discussion of some of the conditions that the county probably would like to see, done in the acceptance of that project, and also discussion with some of the size of the footprint, if there could be any alterations as far as moving the school or not. But if I could bring that forward to the next meeting and have it agendized for board discussion, and just as a partnership with Caltrans and the county to achieve those goals is what I was hoping to have your consent with.
I think that would be a great idea if you want to talk to County Council and the CAO and then have it agendized for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Supervisor Barris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 20th of February, I attended the CSAC Board of Directors meeting by phone, and we were given the priorities for 2014, whereby CSAC will be trying to protect vital county resources. And some of those priorities are really would be very beneficial if they came to fruition for San Benito County. The first one is the 2011 realignment, ensuring proper distribution of 2011 realignment funds. The Affordable Care Act implementation, ensuring proper distribution of 1991 realignment funds. A water bond, which would not necessarily help San Benito County, but would help in the efforts for the Pajaro River flood control area. Transportation initiative to ensure historic share of transportation funding for counties for local streets and road systems. Gas tax swap cleanup, return portion of transportation tax swap revenue associated with off-highway vehicles being diverted to the general fund back to transportation projects. And continuing, cap and trade fund, secure portion of funding for local government and transportation greenhouse gas reduction projects, which are very costly for small counties. The Williamson Act restoration, which I know we lost thousands upon thousands of dollars there, and so they're looking to restore that. Department of Fish and Game payment in lieu of taxes includes payment of past due monies owed to the county since the late 1990s, and I know Supervisor Botello has been fighting that at the RCRC level. Property tax allocation issues include funding for counties with insufficient ERAF and resolving stranded supplemental property tax revenues. Mandate backlog, because we've been given a lot of mandates and local agencies are owed a lot of funds from pre-2004 for reimbursements and suspended mandates. And the last one, which I think is huge for San Benito County, is the county fairs, restoring the state general fund support for the network of county fairs. So those are the issues CSAC has taken on. I will be supporting them on your behalf, so so I thank you for the opportunity to report out. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Barris. With that, we'll move on to the consent item. I've had a request to pull item 3. Would any of the other board supervisors like any item pulled? Would any member of the public like an item pulled? 6.
I'll move approval of the remainder of the consent items.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 5-0. With that, we'll move on to item number 3. Mr. Espinoza?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have Ellen Yamamoto, our Behavioral Health Director, here to answer any concerns or comments or to this particular item.
And yes. I was the one that pulled that, Mr. Chair. Thank you, and Ellen, I apologize. I usually call you ahead of time and give you a heads up on why I'm going to pull something. Right. But I wanted to know on this particular contract, usually on the contracts, there's a fee stated. I know that you have given us an amount, but there's usually an hourly fee for these services, and I didn't see that on the contract or the amount on the contract. So I was just wondering why this one is different in that respect.
It's because the locums agency has to negotiate their rate as they find a psychiatrist. That's unknown at this point, so I gave them a range. But the range is not decided upon until I sign an agreement that I'm accepting the psychiatrist that they send us. The range will be between 170 and 180 that's agreed to. It's not stated in the contract, again, because they do not know where in that range it will fall. What is stated in the contract is that the assignment of the agreed-upon range and the psychiatrist I will agree to accept is incumbent upon my final signature on the agreement, and that's after I interview the psychiatrist as well.
Okay, so we'll make sure that it's within a reasonable amount, and because I know that we contract out to with other areas. So, correct. But I know this is a much needed, so I will support it. But I just needed to get a little clarification on that.
Yeah, it's extremely competitive right now because the state prisons have built new facilities that are very rehabilitation focused. There's a new one that went up in Stockton, and one of the psychiatrists I currently have in placement was interviewed there and accepted a position. It's very hard for us to compete with the state on those salaries.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ellen. I appreciate the clarification on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it right now. Alan, for those, well, let me redirect it. For non-English patients, do they have to wait longer to see a psychiatrist?
No, I don't know if you recall, but we set up a telemedicine service as well. We have a contract with telepsychiatry, so we have a Spanish-speaking psychiatrist available through telemedicine. We also use interpreters, so that there's no additional wait.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody from the public would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, what's the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the contract renewal with Comp Health for the contract term of fiscal year 2013, 14, and 15 for a maximum annual total of $373,000 and authorize the board chair to sign the said contract.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 5-0. We'll move on to item number 6.
Keith's no.
The board, this is about $2,000 for a lawyer. And I was wondering if you guys look at redirection, when you get a lawyer for that price, have you guys thought about getting a business lawyer for the projects and all that? Because that's what there's on the agenda there. Because you get more out of it. So I was wondering if you look at that up, so it help you with the proposal contracts, the grants to guys need for the county and save money, assessed by money. So if you look around, if you look at my website, my Facebook website, there's a list of lawyers there, business lawyers, all kinds of lawyers that will help the city and the county. Thank you.
Mr. Espinoza, who would like to comment on that or why we chose this firm?
This would be county councils.
Yes, so just so the public is clear that this legal services agreement is a project-specific agreement. It's attorneys that are hired by the county to do the CEQA and EIR review that's associated with the San Juan Oaks project. It is not money that is being paid from the county general fund. It is money that will be reimbursed to the county by the developer under our reimbursement agreement. So there is no money out of pocket for the county in this particular instance. And the reason why this particular firm was chosen is because it has expertise in CEQA and environmental issues.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Any other questions from a member of the public? I'll bring it back to the board. What's the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval for the legal services agreement with law firm of Miller Star Regalia for legal services related to the San Juan Oaks specific plan project, the amount not to exceed $200,625.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It passes 5-0.
I think our CAO was looking for the last part of it to authorize the board chair to sign. Does that need to be included in the?
It can, so we'll just amend the motion to include that the chair is authorized to sign.
And that is fine. So, but next time I will, if staff can include that in the language of the item, that would be fantastic. Thank you. So amended.
Second on the amendment.
Okay. We'll move on to the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is item number 9 on our agenda, and today what we're going to have is a public hearing to introduce and consider an ordinance to repeal and replace Ordinance 637, providing for the regulation of ambulance and emergency medical services and amending Chapter 11.09 of the San Benito County Code. So we have our Health and Human Services Director, James Riding Sword, as well as Marcy Morrow here to present, if you may, any other additional items and answer any questions.
Thank you.
The last time the board adopted this resolution was 1990, this ordinance was 1993. So this is an update and a replacement to that. The ordinance basically provides for the regulation of ambulance service in San Benito County, establishes the formal policies and regulations for that, provides for the protection of the public by assuring that ambulance services are operated safely, allows for the orderly and lawful operation of a local emergency and non-emergency medical services system, and allows for all ambulance services to be part of the county emergency medical services system with necessary training policies, procedures, and communication systems. That's what this ordinance does. We're asking the board to hold the public hearing today and to continue this item for adoption to April the 1st.
Are there any questions from members of the board?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair, if I could, just that I appreciate this was all done with a lot of discussion.
Yes.
And a lot of research into what had happened in the past. And
yes.
This is really going to be beneficial for San Benito County to be better protected, I should say, with the contracts that we have in place. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, I will open up the public hearing.
Rebecca Jones.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Jones from Hollister. I'm the director of the emergency department at Hazel Hawkins Hospital. I'm here on the behalf of the medical director of the emergency department and myself. We were able to review part of this item just this yesterday. It's unclear how, if any way, this item would affect the hospital, so we kindly ask that the hospital council be able to review it. That's all.
I believe that can be done before the 1st of April.
Okay. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to address the board on this item?
I want it to fit our hospital. But once you look around and see how much money is spent on the ambulance service and see if you find anything better. But if you can't, then go with that one. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to address the board on this item? Okay, I'm looking at county council. I close the public hearing and then continue this to April 1st?
The board can continue it to April 1st if it wants, or it can adopt the ordinance today. It will not become effective until the second reading is at the April 1st reading. So.
Yeah, do you have the title of the ordinance? I wanted to read the title of the ordinance for the record, and then I'm going to ask that the board accept introduction and waive formal reading of the ordinance and continue to the next board meeting for adoption.
Now, we've had a request by our local health agency wanting their county council to be able to review this.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So the board can simply continue the matter till after April 1st, take no action today, and just continue it. Or the board can adopt the ordinance today. It doesn't become effective until 30 days after the next meeting, which I think Mr. Riding-Sword's comment was, it would give them adequate time to review it.
No, I believe that what we wanted to do, I'm sorry, that's true that you wanted it continued to a further meeting in April, but I believe that we wanted to accept introduction and waive formal reading of the ordinance and then continue it to another board meeting so it can, before it's actually adopted, because this is one of the ones I believe that we wanted to accept introduction and waive reading, continue to a second board meeting.
Does the chair understand? Does the board understand? We
No,
can
I'm
simply
getting lost.
continue it
Okay,
and take no action.
Wait, my first question. Do I close the public hearing now?
Yes.
Okay, let me do that. Close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Now, what is council recommendation on the
Board
next
can
step?
simply continue this matter till after April 1st, or we can introduce the bill, waive second reading, and continue it to a meeting after April 1st, but we've started the process of adopting it.
Yes.
Okay. And if our local health agency had major concerns with the ordinance, that can be addressed in this time frame?
Yes, yes. If there's any additional concerns, we can always come back and modify it in an April meeting. But we would have already accepted introduction, so it's that much further on to the adoption process so that it can be adopted at the next meeting. But if they do have changes, they can always be brought back at a future meeting.
Okay, so
And then we could change it at that next meeting.
again, we have two options. We can just continue to April 1st, or we can actually,
Start the process of adopting it.
okay.
Mr. Chair?
And then, do you want to have 3 meetings or 2 meetings to do it, though? Okay.
Okay. Supervisor Dela Cruz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is regardless if it's material or immaterial on the language?
Yes.
Okay, I'm okay with that then.
Okay, what's the wishes of the board?
Let me let me read the title of the ordinance for the record. It's an ordinance of the County of San Benito to repeal and replace ordinance number 637, providing for the regulation of ambulance service in the County of San Benito and amending Chapter 11.09 of the San Benito County Code. And so if there are additional changes that are desired at the future, it'll have to be reintroduced at the future board meeting.
To me, Mr. Chairman, it seems to make sense to me just to continue the item to April 1st, and then we come back with a clean copy, and we know what we're doing.
That's fine. It will have to be introduced at the next April 1st in April, and then it will be introduced waive reading at that time, then brought back at a subsequent meeting.
And I think that gives our health district time to.
Yeah.
So if there are any modifications between now and April the 1st, we will be sure to highlight those for the board and the public at that point in time.
That would be helpful.
And that is the recommendation, Mr. Chair, of
Okay.
the staff?
I'll make a motion to continue the item to April 1st.
Yes.
For adoption.
It won't be adopted unless you introduce and waive reading
Okay.
today.
First reading.
If
All
you're
right.
just continuing it to reintroduce it at the next meeting, then that can happen. You have two choices. You can continue it and introduce whatever the final version of the ordinance. So you-
I'll make a motion to continue it and reintroduce as the final version.
On the first meeting in
On the
April,
first
you
meeting
want
in
it
April.
reintroduced at that time then?
Right.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a
Mr. Chair.
first and second. Are there any other discussion?
Yeah, can you restate the motion or put it in simple language for me? I don't understand the motion.
That we're going to allow staff and other health organizations to review the changes in the proposed ordinance and it come back to us on April 1st for
Reintroduction.
That's reintroduction.
Okay, thank you.
That's right.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussions? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
Passes 5-0. Thank you, James. Okay, we will move on to our first regular item.
Yep.
Reviewing and discussing the report of BLM. Mr. Espinoza?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this particular item, as we're all aware, is located in BLM property in Clear Creek down south in District Number 4. The property's been closed to access. So today we have Rick Cooper here from BLM to discuss with our board and the public next steps and what's going to actually occur at this particular property. So again, we have Rick Cooper here. He's going to give a PowerPoint presentation for your board.
Rick Cooper, Field Manager for the Hollister Bureau of Land Management Office. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors. I'm pleased to be here today to provide you a briefing on the Clear Creek Management Area Record of Decision and Resource Management Plan. It's been a long process for the Hollister Field Office, so we're happy to be at a point where we're going to start implementing decisions on the ground. Protests to the Clear Creek Management Area proposed RMP and EIS have been resolved. This is the final decision of the Department of Interior. The Clear Creek Management Area Record of Decision, RMP, was approved by the BLM State Director and released on February 12, 2014. It establishes goals, objectives, management actions for the BLM-administered lands on the Clear Creek Management Area. And it also addresses current issues and resource conditions. Barring any litigation concerns, the BLM intends to open the Clear Creek Management Area Serpentine ACEC to public use beginning March 14th. Due to human health risks from asbestos exposure, the BLM will not be managing for motorized recreation in the Clear Creek Serpentine ACEC. BLM will provide highway licensed vehicles into the area to support non-motorized recreation opportunities. Ongoing research to evaluate human health risks from Clear Creek Management Area visitor use will allow the BLM to reassess land use plan decisions in the future if significant new information on human health risks from exposure of airborne asbestos fibers becomes available. Should have asked, moving over. I haven't done this on the script. Is it just that one? No. Here, let me do this first here. Let's go next here. That's what I gotta do. Okay.
You should be able to.
Should be able to do it there. Okay, I'll try that. Okay. Thank you. So when we started this process in 2008, in terms of the environmental impact statement, we had received information from the Environmental Protection Agency's health risk assessment. And based on trying to incorporate that information into our EIS, we found that effectively, I'll call them administrative controls, because a lot of times what you do with a hazardous area, when you begin to use that area or work in that area, you immediately begin to look for administrative controls which can mitigate risk in that area. The area that in Clear Creek, the Serpentine ACEC, we looked at the type of activities that were occurring in that area and the number of visits of that activity. Those were the two real administrative controls that we could feasibly manage within the area, and those were the ones that were analyzed in the alternatives for the EIS. You can also look at other type of controls for the area, such as design and engineering best management practices that could be done in that area, which might involve improving roads, putting road base down that would reduce emissions of asbestos off roads, off trails. It's such a large area with an extensive trail network. We considered what opportunity or what methods might be out there, but they were difficult and we did not analyze those in the EIS. And then there's other methods of personal kind of mitigation measures that you could take in terms of protective equipment that could be used. Those type of requirements of public to use protective equipment would be somewhat difficult for BLM to try to enforce. And then finally, visitor use and behaviors in using the area. Those were interesting concepts in terms of can you change riding behavior? Can you come up with different strategies for use out there? And while that specific thing was not addressed in our EIS, it is something that's being looked at now with State Parks OHV Division. They are actively have been out there since December on consecutive months looking at opportunities for creating strategies for riding out in that area that would reduce risk. So those were the things that we looked at, and the administrative controls were the best and most feasible approach that we could take at the time, and that's what we utilized. So recreation opportunity and motorized access into the area. In the Serpentine ACEC, which is highlighted in the green, it's a little bit difficult to see, but there's a boundary. It's not really green. It's kind of this opaque color here, but there's a boundary around this area that is the ACEC. It approximates the red line, which is the geologic boundary of the Serpentine Formation. And so the Bureau of Land Management will allow limited use within this ACEC area on this designated route system with highway licensed vehicles. And entrance into the ACEC area is going to be handled by a permit system. So it's each individual entering the ACEC will need a permit that they'll obtain from the Bureau of Land Management Hollister Field Office. The total allowable days that an individual will be able to enter into this area in a motorized vehicle and utilize that would be 5 days. And the permit authorizes the individual effectively in a motorized vehicle anyways, the use of this route, which goes out and leads to an access point in Fresno County, which would get them to Joaquin Rocks. It leads them on a scenic touring route where there's a number of opportunities to see some of the natural and geologic features in the area. If you're going to enter the area just on foot from access points that we have, well, actually the access points that we have in this area, and then there are other access points that people do enter in from different locations if they have available public or have available access from private landowners. If they're going to enter into this area, then they can get basically have 12 days of use as far as entering and hiking in the area. So the other thing that I wanted to note is, and I don't know if you can see it, if the supervisors can see it a little bit better, but this area, this kind of pinkish area here, this is the Cantua area, called the Cantua zone. This area down in here is called the Condon zone. From the Fresno County line, which is right there where the light is, back to the Clear Creek entrance is the San Benito River zone. And then we have the Tucker Mountain zone out in this area here. Now, these zones are not serpentine, and they do not have asbestos in those areas. And so I just point those out because I'm going to refer back to some of the management actions that we're going to be proposing for those areas in a minute. But it's just that ring of other lands that surround the ACEC, and we'll be looking at enhancing other recreation opportunities in those areas as we can.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. You know, we're aware that BLM's, erect gates on some of the, I'm going to call it the county roads, for sake of a better term in my own mind.
Mm-hmm.
But with these changes that you're talking about as far as access, how does that affect people coming through our county, maybe stopping downtown Hollister and spending a few bucks here before heading down south to the BLM? Because what it sounds like to me, and I could be wrong, Rick, I haven't studied the accesses as thoroughly as I'd like to have knowledge of. It almost seems that it's easier to go through Fresno County and avoid San Bernardino County altogether. Is that true or not true?
I wouldn't think it would be true. Wouldn't be easier. And I was going to discuss gates and locations in a little bit, but since you brought it up, I'll point to it now. We're proposing to have a gate at the Jade Mills site, which this is the Kalinga Road, Idria Kalinga, or not Idria, but the Kalinga Los Gatos Creek Road. And then this is the route that goes up and over to Idria here. So we're looking at having a gate at Jade Mill. We're looking at having a gate at the R1, R11 intersection, which is almost right where the Idria Road comes onto BLM land, right there. And then we've always had a gate out in here, and there's no public access from the Fresno side. This is Fresno County, and this road that comes up in here, you have to go through a private ranch in order to even get to this point. And that's one of the things the public brought up, those that wanted to go out to Joaquin Rocks, which is our ACEC out in Fresno County. They were going to require access through this ACEC area, and that's one of the things we accounted for. So there's actually 3 gates that will be managed by the agency, 1 in Fresno, 2 in San Benito. But the idea is that there would be a drive-through here from Idria back across to Clear Creek, and you could go back to, come back to Hollister here. You could drive out from Hollister and do a loop into Idria and up and over the top and back down and back to Hollister as well. So the next slide. So it's a little hard to see, but you have black, which is still the managed route that we will authorize permits for. This comes clear out to the kind of the magenta color, which isn't showing up real well here. Hopefully it shows up better on your computer. The magenta routes are actually administrative routes that we have for designated for our purposes for monitoring and for our law enforcement, any search and rescue things that both ourselves and the county sheriffs might have to do in the area. So those are administrative routes that we'll continue to maintain to some level of use. It may be, they're not going to be maintained at a high level, but they will be maintained so that we can have four-wheel access into areas as we need it. And they'll also provide a second purpose, because in addition to the original access permit that I discussed that allowed you to use the one major route through there, the scenic touring route, there's two additional permits that we're going to have. One is going to be for the existing right holders, the private landowners, right-of-way holders, mining claimants. We're going to have an annual permit for those individuals that have lands inside the ACEC. And we're going to kind of copy what we do with grazing lessees in terms of giving them annual permits. We'll have an annual permit there for them. They'll get the combination, their combination lock that they'll use on the gates, and they'll have complete access in there to their respective property or mining claim on a direct route to the property. If for some reason they decide they want to use the touring route, then they would have to go ahead and get the regular access permit to use that. But if they're just going into their property, they would be in and out on their own.
Supervisor Barris?
Thank you. Rick, you mentioned that you're happy that this is now, and with all due respect, I'm not happy, and I'm going to say that probably most prior users are not either. When you say that we will change the combination on an annual basis, you know, this is really cumbersome. This is not freedom for property owners. What is really going to happen here is you're going to actually make it cumbersome for property owners to get to their properties, you're going to govern where they go and where they do not go to get there, and you're actually going to discourage the access and the approach. And I'm going to give you a scenario. You have a property owner there that wants to use their property and invite 100 people to come over and enjoy a picnic, a day out there. How are you going to handle that if every person that goes through there has to have a permit, and you have to have information on every automobile? Tell me how that is going to be addressed.
Well, it's not going to be, I'm not saying that the permitting process isn't going to be somewhat cumbersome. It's particularly going to be cumbersome at the start. I think over time, access into the area, the permitting process will get refined. We're currently working with recreation.gov, which is an organization that is used nationwide for the purposes of issuing permits into, wilderness areas, wild and scenic rivers, those type of things. They have group events that go in there that have large numbers where people permit. So it's possible for us to address that for a landowner. If we needed to do that, we would be able to address that, I believe.
Well, one of the things, and thank you, Mr. Chair, if I still have the floor, I'm thinking of this. This is a joke that it's going to be that if we need to, we'll review it later. Almost like it was a joke that we were going to temporarily close the road back in 2008, and here it is 6 years later. So I'm sorry if I don't believe that, and I don't trust that that's going to happen. I think it's going to continue to get worse and more cumbersome, just as it has gotten worse since 2008. So I don't think that this is going to be easy for property owners, and I really feel that it's an injustice. So, and a lot of freedom is taken away from not only just the regular public to be able to enjoy the area, but from property owners as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The other permit, I mentioned there would be two. There would be one for the landowners. Within the ACEC area, there will also be an individual backcountry pass. And again, that is an opportunity for scientists, hunters, other recreationists, rock hounding, people wanting to do biological studies. Again, it would be very similar to the approach with the private landowner, which would be off of the designated route. If they have a specific destination to go to, then they would actually apply for a additional permit. If they want to go off of that route, off of the designated access route that we have available to people when they go into the ACEC, they want to go off of that, and I'll show one example here, is if they wanted to go out on this route out to a point that has been traditional opportunity for people to hunt, they would go out and they would have park and they would have a jump off point and hunt, and then they could come back on this route and out. We're not looking at creating a touring loop on the administrative routes, because quite frankly, we would like to keep our maintenance and work on those routes to a minimum due to the hazard of disturbing the soils in those areas. So these are things that we're going to look at, and they'll be looked at on a case-by-case basis as to what we can provide for opportunities off the scenic touring route for the public to use. So this is the Condon Peak area is what's showing up on this map right now, and this the objectives here is this is kind of a carryover from our 2006 transportation management plan that we had, in which we had designated a small segment of routes under that plan for use for enhancing opportunities for hunting and the use of both ATV and vehicles, UTV vehicles for that purpose. What we're doing that is a little bit different from the transportation plan is historically the public access came from the ACEC area into this area to take advantage of these routes. And then what we are going to be doing is from the Condon campsite, which is right on the San Benito-Fresno County Road, just on the Fresno side, we're going to actually take an existing route, and we'll have to build a little new trail about a quarter mile and do connection to our existing route system out there. So this will provide an opportunity to enhance public access and use of the Condon Peak Zone, which has been a traditional hunting area for people. And so we would expand that, and this will be the one place right now in the Clear Creek management area where we would have stickered vehicles would be authorized in that area. We're looking at, we will be, in the next 5 years, it'll be a requirement for us to finish transportation management plan on the Cantua zone, on the Tucker zone. We're currently not looking at doing that on the San Benito River zone, but we could be convinced to do that if some of our neighboring landowners thought it was necessary. But right now, we'll be looking at doing those plans to determine what kind of recreation opportunities we can provide in those areas. Our biggest challenge in those areas is public access. We have a lot of fragmented land ownership in those areas, which precludes access. So we would be looking at trying to obtain that access, as well as make plans for how we would use it when we got it. The recreation opportunity, we are going to restart our fee program that we began in 2008. And that fee program would be, when you go into Clear Creek management area, there's a $5 fee for the highway licensed vehicle that goes into that area. So anytime that it gets entered into that area, that fee would come into play for that vehicle. And that as in our original business plan, that is good for 7 days. If you are taking an ATV into the Condon zone, there's a $10 fee. Again, that's a carryover from our 2008 business plan, and we would apply that to any ATV or UTV use in there on stickered vehicles. As far as the highway licensed vehicles on our routes and trails, those would all be normal traffic rules, follow speed limit signs that we post, and it would be strictly licensed drivers that would be utilizing those roadways. We also had other actions that we proposed. Serpentine ACEC is day use only. We're not looking at any overnight use or camping in the ACEC. The Oak Flat Campground and the Jade Mill Campground are open for visitor use and enjoyment. They will be opened up on March 14th. Primitive dispersed camping will be allowed outside the ACEC. So, as I said, access is difficult, but there are places that public can get to the surrounding public lands in the Condon, Cantua, and Tucker zone. It takes a little bit of hiking, but if they can get in there, they will be able to camp on those areas. There's no organized events or no recreation permits for organized events in the ACEC. And then finally, as I said earlier, we're enhancing opportunities, hopefully in the Tucker and Cantua areas over the next 5 years. Clear Creek management area, this is a visitor map that we'll have posted on our website. We're hoping it's coming up today. We had a major meltdown of our services yesterday, but we hopefully will be up and running today. The information is available at the Hollister Field Office at our website, or come into the office, and on the Clear Creek management area, they'll include instructions of how to submit a request for access permits, and it'll also, you can obtain this visitor use map for recreation opportunity there. So just a quick review, just on the permits. So if you're going to go into the area, there's a fee permit for your vehicle. So if you're driving a highway licensed vehicle into that, it's a $5 fee. If you're taking the ATVs into the Condon area, it's a $10 fee. And then private landowners themselves, they don't have to pay a vehicle fee to go in. It's just strictly private land. claimants and the right-of-way holders, they'll just have an annual pass that they can go in on.
Rick?
Yes.
Apologize. So going back to Supervisor Barrios's scenario.
Yes.
Private landowner,
Mhm.
you're saying he'll be given a pass. Now, he wants to invite friends and family. They're going to have to pay the $5 permit fee to go to private land?
Not if they're using strictly the right-of-way. That is going to the landowner
Oh, okay.
parcel.
So you're going to be able to designate that
Well,
in your permit process?
again, on the permit, if they are going to go in to the private landowner's property, then that would have to be addressed with us, separate from their annual use permit. They're going to have to address that with us, so.
Yeah, thank you. Supervisor Patella?
Yeah, and I might be misunderstanding what's going on, and as far as with the gates. I have a real concern about the gates on the county road. You have a lot of other roads that you could put your gates on, but why are you putting gates on a county road?
Those are the access points that have the best control for use into the ACEC.
What if you heard from this board that we don't want gates on a county road?
Well, that is, do you want to go into this topic now?
Well,
I mean, we can, certainly can. I'm up for it, but.
Yeah, I think that's, that's a real stumbling block because, at least for me anyway, that it's a county road.
Okay.
And we would, I live on a county road myself. I get fed up with people traveling 90 miles an hour. I'd love to put a gate on my road too.
Okay.
What makes the Bureau of Land Management, special without, at least agreement from the county to do so. And Supervisor Barrios very eloquently expressed some real concerns as far as what's going on out there. And my own feeling is that the U.S. government, the federal government, your department have found a very convenient way to limit access to the citizens of the United States to public lands with this asbestos theory. And, it's just a tremendous impact on our county. It goes beyond principles, it's economics here too. And it's a change, and we're struggling as it is, and I don't think any of it's been taken into account. But we do have a responsibility to the private landowners within the BLM with the county road and partnerships with, other, whether it's the federal government or a private citizen, with those roads. And you can have access points in your toll booth to get in your, and uses on your controlled lands, but when you start putting gates in on our roads, that's a problem.
Well, I do think there needs to be some clarity brought to the road situation in the Serpentine ACEC. I really do. BLM's had a long history of working very closely with the county on those roads. We did a lot of repairs on those roads with FEMA money that the county provided for us. We've actually done some road work on those with the OHV division money that the county provided for us. So there's no doubt that we've cooperated over the years with the county on the road. However, there is no right-of-way. The county does not have a right-of-way over federal lands anywhere in Clear Creek for those roads. There's nothing on the books. There's nothing on the master title plat. So that's one issue that needs to be addressed, and there does need to be something more formalized in terms of that being a county right-of-way, county access. And so the Bureau would embrace us bringing that clarity to that situation. As far as, I think in 1999, we attempted, former manager, not myself, attempted to enter into an agreement with the county to conduct maintenance on those roads, routine maintenance on those roads, and the county declined. And the county declined specifically for the purposes that, as I understood it, was they did not want to get engaged into condoning maintenance on the county road system. So we've had this situation of how do we address protecting public health and safety on a road system? How do we do that? How do we affect maintaining those roads? But the county says they're their roads and don't maintain them. And the BLM, you know, we've incurred some liability over the years. 2002, a gentleman was severely injured on those roads that were not being maintained. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, the Ninth Circuit determined that the federal government was liable for that accident, and thereby, you know, they lost an award of about $10 million. So I mean, I can speak for my state director. I can speak for the director of the BLM. We'd love to bring clarity to, you know, who's doing what on those roads out there, and how do we affect management out there without with the county.
Yeah, and I think that clarity should take place prior to gates being erected. That's just where I'm at.
Well, I mean, since 1976, the county's had the opportunity to bring clarity to that situation. So at this point in time, in terms of implementing this decision, you know, we are going to take those actions necessary to ensure that we're implementing these decisions in an effective manner. If we bring clarity to the situation and we have to make a change, then we'll do that.
Supervisor Barris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rick, you may not know this, but having a right-of-way does not obligate us to maintain the roads. There's nothing written that says that we need to maintain the roads even if we have right-of-way. So I'm sorry, but I will disagree with you on that. And San Benito County does have a right-of-way on those roads. There's nothing that says BLM would have it if the county didn't, but you took the other route that says that you have the right and we do not. What I don't understand, and I know this is a moot point because you already have installed the gates or in the process of, and you took the easy way out. If you think that that area is so dangerous to human life, then you should erect 12-foot fence all around your BLM property, put some barbed stuff on it so that people can't enter, and keep us out of there. But do not put the gates on our roads. Because until the studies are conclusive, which you and I both know that they are not conclusive, there are no reports of asbestos-related illnesses. None have occurred in the last 75 to 100 years. It really makes no sense to me. So you need to construct your fences if you think that it's that dangerous. So my point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Rick, if you want to continue.
Do you want me to continue with the presentation, or do we want to debate the roads some more?
Let's go ahead with the presentation.
Okay. Where was that? So I think I was on the permitting, and we were discussing the fact that there would be the annual permits for I was just doing a review of the different permits to go through the fee permit. So there was clearly, when people come in, there's a fee permit they would be getting if they're going into Clear Creek. Then there would be the annual permit for the landowners, valid existing right holders. And then there would be that two-tier section of, if you're entering the ACEC, you would get a permit. And then if you're going to go off of that route and do anything, there's a backcountry permit that you would need to get. All of those are available at the office. Eventually, we hope to have the fee permit and the ACEC permit to actually be on rec.gov, where it can be easily obtained off of off a website or online. The adaptive management, BLM will continue to work with California State Parks, OHV Division, with California Department of Toxic Substance Control, the California Division of Geology, US EPA, Cal EPA, all those that have been involved in the past. We'll continue to work with them to look at identifying opportunities for activity-based studies on asbestos exposure to recreational users to see if there are studies that can be done, see what studies are done, what kind of analysis is done on, see if there are opportunities that can be created to expand recreation use in the ACEC. And just as far as appeals information on this particular record of decision, implementation decisions in the record of decision can be appealed to IBLA up to 30 days from the date of decision. So these notices of decision can be sent to the Hollister field office. You cannot just send an email into the Hollister field office, though. This has to be in writing. Basically, you need to state what you are appealing, who you are, and why you are appealing in terms of why you have standing. And then once that is done, the the Hearing and Appeals Board will let you know what you need. If your appeal is accepted, then they'll let you know what you need to do to follow up. So, as I said it earlier, barring any litigation concerns, the BLM intends to open up Clear Creek Management Area, Serpentine ACEC, along with the rest of the Clear Creek Management Area, to public use on March 14th, which is 10 days from here. Any other questions?
Any other questions of Supervisor Bertel?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that kind of pops into my mind as far as other resources within that area, and we've talked about it once or twice in the past, is the possibility of oil exploration. And, you know, the county has been concerned about, you know, that potential and hopes that it's done responsibly and through, you know, a high level of environmental concern, of course. But how does the rules change if you do proposed oil leasing in a BLM land? Are you to limit the access and to, you know, on lease agreements that the federal government might enter into?
We wouldn't enter into any lease agreements in the ACEC, Serpentine ACEC. That's part of this decision.
So that's not an area that you even would consider some of the oil leases that BLM was interested in.
Yeah, that the Serpentine mass, just geology-wise, wouldn't be conducive to oil or gas development from talking with geologists and folks. So, number one, it's not, but at the same time, we limited wind leasing opportunities in there. We effectively are going for an approach of minimal impact in that area, and so those decisions were made.
Okay, and so access roads, you know, if you enter into a lease agreement with a oil company, they would have pretty much the same type of access. They'll have to get permits to directly.
I guess we would have to, I guess we might consider for an access purpose, we might have to consider that. But I think with my understanding of historic geology in that area, that they would be looking for other avenues of access to their lease, any lease areas that they wanted. You know, there's a lease currently on like the south, I guess it would be the southeast or southwest edge of the Clear Creek Management Area, down getting closer to the Kalinga Flats out in there, but that's about as close as they are. But if there was just strictly an access point, you know, we could consider right-of-way access, you know, just like we would with others across that piece of property. Yeah, we could consider it, but I don't anticipate there'll be actual oil development on that property at all. And and the reason I don't anticipate it, we're not going to allow it. We won't lease it for oil and gas development.
Anyone else? Okay. I will open it up to public comment. Again, I stress that all comments are addressed to the board, and all comment be respectful. Do we have any comment? Cards?
Mr. Chairman and board members, Don Amador here representing the Blue Ribbon Coalition, Quiet Warrior Racing, Dave Pickett from AMA District 36, and Steve Kortoff from Friends of the Clear Creek Management Area. Both of those gentlemen couldn't make it today. I think like you, Blue Ribbon and others strongly disagree with the agency's decision at Clear Creek. And without going into the loss of access, the loss of events, the loss of economic impacts to your county. As we all know, this was the largest landscape level closure of its kind in U.S. history. Essentially, we saw 70,000 acres of public land closed to all uses for almost 6 years. Our concern now is that based on a non-existent health risk, where one fiber is the same as a billion fibers, and that naturally occurring asbestos occurs in 43 counties in California, our concern is that this sets a very dangerous precedent. That the only way for state and federal land agencies and regulatory agencies to address non-existent health risks, particularly NOA as it comes down in the watershed on both sides, east and west into your county, Fresno County, that the appropriate land decision is to close the land or to restrict human activities, both motorized and non-motorized, including agriculture. Steve Kortoff, who's an organic farmer in the Central Valley, he's extremely concerned, and his constituents in the agriculture industry are concerned about the impacts of this precedent-setting case, this precedent-setting decision. So, Blue Ribbon, we are reserving the right to review this for potential litigation, offer our services, Moore, Smith, Buxton, and Turek, to consult with the county and county council should you want to discuss that. Secondly, we talked about the county roads. The appropriate tool here, I think, is for the county to consider a formal RS-2477 assertion. Last week, Esty Stifles at the OHV Commission meeting in Upper Lake, she gave a presentation to the Commission on the ROD. When the RS-2477 issue came up, she said the BLM would not object to the county looking at doing that. I think you sort of heard that today from Mr. Cooper. So that's an action item you might want to consider as well. And then would like to thank you for your support of H.R. 1776 and consider continuing your support as it works its way through the hearing process, hopefully in the next few weeks, and hopefully get signed into law in the not too distant future. Thanks again for your support, and look forward to working with you on this issue.
I'm on this case of return to foreign rainwater companies. The one thing that gave me, I'm thrown back. How? Didn't you know? I mean, you guys should look up. He should look up what asbestos is. We did a lot of asbestos. We did a lot of hazardous waste removal, oil, bases, liquids. Removal. And he said they want to do a camp thing. And when you open that camp thing, make sure every citizen wear masks, gloves, a bodysuit. Do you know what asbestos does to people? Cancer. And when they breathe that, I mean, it's ridiculous. And making money out of it passes entertainment. You guys should put signs on that. It should not be permitted in the city, county, or anywhere. And the state knows about this. We work for the state. We did jobs for the state, removal. We did jobs for the county and city, removal. I mean, there should be signs. There should be signs out there. Hazardous waste, asbestos, sandbag. I mean, harm breathing it. Just like fracking. I mean, I want no fracking in this city. I mean, same thing. I mean, one pump methanol 80 miles in our earth ground for 50 billion gallons of oil. I mean, it's ridiculous. You guys should do something about this. I mean, you guys should not discriminate. I don't care what kind of loopholes this. I mean, why it smells all about money nowadays? Make a buck. I mean, you guys shouldn't do this to citizens and people in city or county. And not be permitted. Thank you. Should look up what it means.
Roger Tiffin.
Thank you. I'm Roger Tiffin. I'm a co-owner of 2 mining claims in the Clear Creek area in San Benito County, and I've got a friend that has private property that I access to go visit him from time to time. And I'd like to thank you, this Board of Supervisors, for keeping the roads open. Roads that are used to access both private land and legal mining claims. The Clear Creek recreation property belongs to us, the people, people of this nation. It's unfortunate the BLM has put more effort into keeping people off the land than managing it and allowing us to have access. Last week, I received a letter from Rick Cooper, field manager of the Hollister field office of the BLM. The letter states that the BLM will be requiring me to fill out an annual access permit and complete the vehicle information section. That's part of it that bothers me. I'm only allowed to use a certain vehicle. I mean, I own 3. Sometimes I go out with friends. And so that's really limiting me. And I only go if I've got that vehicle on a signed form that they possess. The county road passes through both our mining claims and my friend's private property. So we're not using it to access general property. So the BLM will be installing gates and preventing a right of access on county roads. I want to encourage you, the Board of Supervisors, to maintain the public county roads in San Benito County and allow public access to public property and a right to access. I've also got a safety issue. I've got 39 years in the oil industry where we're behind a lot of lock gates. I've seen locks sabotaged repeatedly. Sometimes they don't like the issue, sometimes they just don't like fences and locks. So what happens when I pass in and it's time for me to leave and somebody's jammed something up and broke it off the lock or put epoxy? I've had to cut locks repeatedly in the past, and I'm not necessarily going to have the equipment to get out, and there's no cell phone contact. Now what do I do? It's a safety issue. So several of us have filed mining claims years ago. The BLM stated and sent me a letter I had to sign for that getting the claim and entering was not legal. We appealed it, clean to the IBLA, and were found that we were correct in getting our claim and having our claim. But in the meantime, when I went up there, I went to the bank and put a couple $1,000s in cash because of the letter I'd received. I was worried about being locked up.
Okay, if you can summarize for us.
What's that?
If you can summarize for us now.
Yeah, and so I just want to say please continue to stand up for our legal rights, the rights of the American people, and keep the roads open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray Giddings.
My name is Ray Iddings. I'm an owner of a property located in San Benito County in the Clear Creek area, and I access my property via the county roads. The county road that we go through is Mexican Lake Road. It was there before that property was ever homesteaded, and everybody who's acquired the property since then has always acquired it knowing that we access that property by county roads. An unelected BLM office manager is attempting to confiscate county roads from San Benito County and set up locked federal gates on these roads. If you allow them to confiscate these roads, then you also allow them to steal private property rights. Property ownership is a fundamental principle of liberty and freedom. A sign of tyranny is when federal managers begin telling people what and how they can use their property. I also remind the board that such gates, which were not discussed in the BLM record of decision, are extremely dangerous in a country where vandals commonly vandalize locks so that they cannot be reopened. That area is often abandoned for weeks, where no cell phone service is out there. So what happens when we are locked inside? The BLM claims that the area closure is for public safety, but now they want to harm people by locking them in. Imagine a life when unelected federal bureaucrats control the gate to your home. They might promise you a new key every year, but it won't be long before they charge you a yard passage fee and a door access service charge. And friends won't be allowed to visit at all without permission from the local commissar, or I'm sorry, BLM office. That's tyranny. The Raymond Eade Liberty Memorial is located at the corner of Clear Creek Road and Coalinga Road. Sergeant Eade was an American hero, a true patriot who died fighting tyranny. Government appointees who serve with an excuse that they simply follow orders while trampling the fundamental principles of American liberty do not serve the public good. Their every breath violates public trust. They never speak the truth. Such bureaucrats must be tied by the chains of law and their every breath resisted. I urge the Board of Supervisors, a body elected by the people, to defend their roads and to also write a letter of no confidence to the Department of the Interior asking for the removal of the Hollister BLM office manager. If federal gates are installed on the county road, then I urge the board to remove the gates and arrest the offender. Thank you.
D. Murphy.
Good morning. My name is Dee Murphy. Well, we started this many, many years ago. The Clear Creek roads are San Benito County roads, and I know that at least a few of you got my map that has the BLM's writing on it, says it's a county road. So we all clearly know that road belongs to San Benito County. My friends, we actually brought all that information to you so that you could be aware of what the truth was and the truth is. And you guys did the right thing. You opened the road. San Benito County has had that road since the 1880s. The Clear Creek roads have been horse and buggy, everything on them. What about the millions of dollars of income that is lost here? As you remember, I personally went to all the businesses, almost all, in this county, and I found out how much they had been losing because of Clear Creek being closed. I did. I know the BLM told you they did, but I know that only 2 businesses in this county ever got told by the BLM, hey, we're going to have a meeting. No, I went to that meeting. I told those people. $1.5 million a year. We already know that I have a business favoring this because we're into the dirt biking thing. Problem is we all lost money because the BLM lied to you. So according to the ROD, what about the BLM workers? They don't go in right now with their protective gear. Their boss does not make sure they do. I sent you pictures. I know they don't go in. I know I'm not the only one that has pictures. How many days will they be allowed? 5 days? How many employees is the BLM going to be hiring just to come in for 5 days? Because there's 365 days in every year. They don't wear equipment, and they expect the public to? They close the roads for us? It's our land. It's your land, and it's your land. And I think it's someone else's land in here, too. I know some of you have land out there. Who will monitor all these BLM employees? It should be the boss, but he doesn't do that. And we know that isn't done because we have pictures, picture proof. I did email you that. I, for one, am absolutely tired of the bullies and the BLM. What they do is they take away my public land that I pay for with my taxes, and you pay for with your taxes, and everybody in this room pays for with their taxes. The visitors, the residents, oh my God, give me a break, pay $5 to go in and have to, and like, what if I go to somebody's private property? Now I have to have a permit? Am I in Russia? I know I live in America because there's an American flag right behind you. Gating the road, we did that already. We already know that's illegal. He cannot gate the road. The BLM cannot. It's been a county road since 1880s. No way, no gate, no gate, no way. No. My signs. Thank you. You guys are wonderful.
Steve Wells.
Good morning, thank you. Good morning, Board of Supervisors and the public. I'd like to thank you for letting me speak here today on behalf of the BLM's Clear Creek Public Lands Area Record of Decision proposal to deny the access to the public and gating off the county roads. I'm a Monterey County resident, but I recreate in San Benito County several days a month for several years without issue, and I'd like to continue to do that if at all possible. I'm here to support you in your effort to maintain access and control and maintenance of the county roads in any way that I can. I'd like you to review the RS 2477 statute that identifies public rights-of-way over public land. I'd like to offer my support to San Benito County in any way that I can in protecting and maintaining your county roads within the Clear Creek Public Lands area while remaining unobstructed to the public. I urge you to prevent the BLM from placing any obstructions or gates which might be installed with locks preventing public access on any of the county road systems within the Clear Creek Public Lands area. There are dozens of roads in there that the BLM never created, never graded, never produced, never managed, that were cut by loggers that cut timber down for that New Hydria mine. The majority of those roads out there are because of that mine. The BLM didn't go out and create any new roads out there. They have been existing long before the BLM has been managing that area. I asked the Board of Supervisors to file a motion of no confidence, a vote of no confidence against Rick Cooper, the field office director of the Hollister Field Office of BLM. Rick has fallen short by failing to carry out obligations to the public in a timely manner with a nearly 6-year emergency closure that was enacted, that was supposed to last 18 to 24 months to resolve land use issues, and for making choices that have now become detrimental to the Clear Creek Public Lands area that have greatly restricted our access to public lands within San Benito County. The public and many local businesses have suffered greatly from this emergency closure since the day it went into effect on May 1, 2008. We need to stop any continued suffering by refusing the BLM's efforts to gain control of the county's roads within the Clear Creek Public Lands area. We need to go on the record and demonstrate to our elected officials that we no longer have confidence in Rick Cooper's ability managing our Clear Creek public lands. I urge the Board of Supervisors to make every effort to continue to stay involved in all future Clear Creek public lands management and decision opportunities. I'll be there supporting you all the way. Thank you.
John Ortiz.
Hello, my name is John Ortiz. I own Fault Line Power Sports. We've got a store in downtown Hollister, and we're the concessionaire about Hollister Hills SVRA. I just want to speak briefly about the economic impact on my business. When Clear Creek closed, we saw a drop in business at our downtown store of about 20% that we attributed to the closure of Clear Creek. We went from 9 employees down to 6. Since that time, the visitors we used to see coming in riding Clear Creek we don't see them anymore. The guys, local guys that would ride there, now they're going to places like Pi, Mojave, Stonyford. All those people are not spending their money in San Benito County. It's had a tremendous economic impact on this county. I'd like to request the board to, if you could appeal the decision, the record of decision to the BLM. We appreciate your support in opening, keeping the county roads open, and anything you do to get Clear Creek open the way it was. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Cheryl Bernardo.
Mr. Chairman and Supervisors, my name is actually Cheryl Rosati Bernardo. I'm a native of San Benito County, but for the past 25 years I've resided in Garfield County, Utah. We were blindsided in 1997 by a governmental dictate that took 2 million acres of BLM lands and put it into a national monument. That was intended to close mining operations in that land. Just in conversation this afternoon, I had no intent of speaking here, but spontaneously I was informed about the road issues that San Benito County is dealing with in regards to the Clear Creek management area. There are at least 10 ingress-egress roads in Kane and Garfield counties that go into the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. I know that because my realtor, who's selling my property there for me so I can be full-time back in San Benito County, is our county roadman. Our county and Kane County maintain the roads within the national monument. I don't know the whole procedure, but I do know that Kane County actually went in and took down signs on their part of the monument, because they maintained, and they took it to court, that the county owns the roads in the national monument. And it's still under the jurisdiction of the Department of the Interior and the Bureau of Land Management. Grazing rights are still allowed out there because they were grandfathered in. There is still oil being extracted from parts of the monument because it's grandfathered in. But I was asked to address the road situation, and I do know that our county maintains the roads. There are some of them that are hard-surfaced. You can't really call them real paved roads, but they're hard-surfaced. The majority of the roads are either gravel, some of them even dirt because it's a sandy composition of the soil there. But there are precedents dealing with road issues with county ownership inside of federal property, and that's what I'd like you to be aware of. I know who our Garfield County commissioners are. We have a 3-man board. Like I said, 2 million acres of public lands and no gates. The only time those roads are closed are generally because of winter conditions and people who have been stranded in some of the higher elevations in snow. And we get the summer monsoons with flash flooding, and the roads are washed out. And again, as a safety issue, they are closed until the roads are repaired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones. Richard Betancourt said I should do my pedigree. I will limit it. I'm Marvin Jones from Hollister, PhD, MBA, BS, MBWA, retired rocket scientist. 2 weeks ago when I was here criticizing BLM for their closure of the Clear Creek recreational area to make it consistent with the United Nations Agenda 21 biodiversity element, people aren't allowed, I was wrong. They will allow you in there 12 times a year if you're on foot, 5 times a year if you're in a vehicle. If you're a property owner, you got a hurdle to crawl over. If I read your package right there, the final directive, note the word final directive, that came down from Bureau of Land Management. came down upon high to the subjects, not citizens, but the subjects of San Benito County. That's what it says. Well, maybe I embellished it a little bit. It says you can get permits. But it also says you cannot appeal the permit process. Supervisor Bertolo, you ask how they can close the county roads? Well, they're the Bureau of Land Management. They can do it because they can. You're only an elected citizen of this county. There are employees of the United States Government Bureau of Land Management. Who are you? I better stop. Sorry, thank you for your time.
Francisco Agru. Okay. It's AGR and
Yes.
the rest is irrelevant.
Hi, everyone. I'm an outsider. I live in the Bay Area. I used to come out here often to dirt bike ride with my friends. I used to come out here a few times a year at least. I used to buy my dirt bikes in Hollister because it had the best prices, much better than the Bay Area. Bought a dirt bike for my girlfriend as well. Dirt bikes were maintained in Hollister because better prices than the Bay Area. I would come out here with my motorhome, towing the 2 dirt bikes, meeting up with dozens of friends, and we'd have an enjoyable weekend. I'd buy all my groceries and everything out here before we go out there and camp out. I'd stop at the restaurants on my way in, on my way out, spend a lot of money in your county. In fact, I thought about retiring out here because I loved dirt biking so much in Clear Creek and Hollister. Since the closure, Hollister has become so crowded that I don't even enjoy dirt biking there anymore because, you know, you're worried about running into other dirt bikes, running into a tree, going around someone. So much dust out there because there's so many dirt bikes riding out there. So I don't come into your county anymore. I don't spend any money out here. I don't think about retiring out here. It's a great loss to your economy, much bigger than you probably think it is, because I used to have a reason to come out here often, and I really enjoyed this area. Now I go other places, and I have no reason at all to come out here and spend a dime. So I'm just letting you know that Rick Cooper and his plan is just killing this place. So thank you.
Mike Soberanis.
Good morning. I didn't have any intent to speak. I just came down in support of trying to keep the county roads open. Obviously, you guys are staying aware of that subject, and I appreciate it. I want to thank you for asking the questions that you did this morning, and hopefully we can get a resolve in that way. I'm quite surprised, actually, about the financial situation. I know Mr. Cooper was talking about how they were maintaining the roads, but underlying that was the county was paying for it all. They just did the work. So I think that as a financial situation, that doesn't make any sense. You're going to keep the road, or hopefully keep the road, keep it open, and I think I could speak for everyone here. We'll be quite happy. My scenario is pretty much as she brought it up. I'm not a landowner, but I come down to visit my friends with property here, and I drive through the county road to get to the other side. It's going to be a terrible pain to try to either work that out or, you know, get myself across. So I'll be having to go to the other side of the county and access my friend's property that way. That means, see you later, Hollister. I won't be here any longer. I live over 2 hours away and generally stay in a motel here often. I do then frequent the restaurants and so on, you know, buy my gas and that. So the financial part of it for me is there. But anyway, long story short, thank you very much. I hope to keep an open mind and we get some quick resolve.
Bruce Brazil.
Good morning, Supervisors. Bruce Brazil, representing the California Off-Road Vehicle Association. I have to say I'm really disappointed. 6 years to come up with a plan that has so many open ends on it, so many things that have to be looked into and finalized, et cetera, in order to put it into place. And this is for an area that they're going to be opening up in a couple weeks. Very disappointing. Now, I know the Board of Supervisors hasn't got much influence on the actual closure of the Clear Creek management area, but they do have a lot of say on the county road. few of our previous speakers have mentioned and solidified that those are county roads. Even Mr. Cooper has referred to them as county roads. Now, an access fee. It's already been determined by our federal government that access fees can only be instated in areas where extra services are being provided, such as restrooms, picnic tables, maybe a nature center, something like that. What the institution of, or the addition of an access fee would be doing is turning this into county, because those are county roads, county toll roads. Anyone that's just traveling the road is not using the extra services. And that just doesn't go over. In order to put up gates, that would be considered a ground disturbing activity, which would initiate the NEPA process. I haven't heard anything along that line yet from the BLM. And should those gates go up and the Board of Supervisors figure that they're doing so illegally, I believe the Sheriff's Office is the top level of law enforcement in California. So their authority would trump anything from the BLM as far as enforcing the laws on those roads. And if the Board of Supervisors still has standing as far as an appeal, I'd really hope that they send something in to the Interior Board of Land Management, or IBLA, excuse me. Because I know myself and several other individuals that are still have standing will be doing such. Thank you for your time.
Marty Richmond?
Marty Richmond from Hollister. Thank you for your time. I just want to say that, and I've spoken on this issue before. First of all, I'm not going to pick on Mr. Cooper. He's doing his job. The closing of this area is not a scientific decision. I have asked time and again to show me one case in 30 or 40 or 50 years, one case of someone that's been controlled for all hazards who wound up with a health problem from this asbestos, and I said I would carry the sign that said the road is closed. No one's come up with a case. We had the epidemiologist stand here representing the government who said, you can't go in there for an hour. All of a sudden, an hour is turned into days, and a day, and if you're walking, it's turned into 12 days. And I came up and I said, are you telling me you can't go in there for an hour? He said, you can't go in there for an hour, right at this podium. There is no evidence that this is a hazard. So the closing of this is not a scientific decision. It's a political decision. So if you want to fight this, you have to fight it politically. Now, you only have politically 2 weapons. We don't have the normal 3 weapons that Los Angeles County has. We don't have the 6 or 7 or 8 million votes. If we did, believe me, this wouldn't be going on. All you have is your ability to go to court and fight it in court, number one, and go to our federal elected officials and fight it through them. Because the political decision by the BLM has been made. And politically, they want to close that land. They don't want to own it. They just want to control it. And as Mr. Cooper expressed, very honestly, it's just like a lease, except they're going to allow you to go into your own land when they get a chance. So he'll be happy to know I agree with him on one thing. It may come down to the fact that the Ninth Circuit made the BLM pay $9 or $10 million to somebody who got hurt on the road, and we can agree, we can all agree that the Ninth Circuit often does not know what the heck it's doing, because it's the most overturned circuit court in the United States of America. We agree. So if the problem with BLM is that they once had somebody had a traffic accident and the Ninth Circuit made them pay the person $10 million. That's their problem with the Ninth Circuit. It has nothing to do with the county of San Benito. So I urge you, if you want to take action, the right action to take is political, not any other action. Thank you for your time.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address the board on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, or were you going to? Go ahead.
Oh, before you make your motion, perhaps if, Mr. Cooper, if I could ask you one question. As I stated earlier, the county roads is a major concern for me. I think it's a little bit going beyond the authority of even for us to put gates on that road. Hearing the testimony today, the economic impact, the social impact that this plan has on our small county is immeasurable. But one thing we can do today is take down the gate that has been erected and eliminate the plans to add a second gate. And if you want to control areas of the BLM land, formulate alternatives. One of the things that concerns me when you spoke earlier about the permit process was that people would have to come into the field office in Hollister to apply for the permit, that this needs to be done in writing rather than through email. And that kind of gave me a sense that everything else that I do with the state and federal government, everything, paying my taxes, sending in inspection reports on my property, it's through email. And I can't figure anything other than how can I be more of an inconvenience to the citizens than to require them to drive in, hope that somebody's at the counter, and submit $5 and fill out the application. But one thing we can do today is let's reevaluate the gate. And that would make, I know, our working relationship solid. As you stated earlier, we've always had a good relationship with BLM. We've certainly want to maintain that. But this is kind of going over the top as far as taking over something that the county views as our roads.
Well, I guess I guess if we were going to, as part of our implementation, delay the actual locking of the gates, you know, I would really think that's something that we need to have a discussion with probably county council and my council to determine what is the appropriate procedure for moving forward with how we determine the ownership of the road, what the long-term ownership of the road is going to be and how that's going to proceed. You know, if we had some sort of commitment as to making something like that happen timely in terms of, you know, making a final determination on the status of the road, I think that would be helpful in that regard, and might help BLM, you know, maybe weigh that in terms of whether or not we want to implement at this point. But
Rick, I want to thank you for coming. I know these meetings are not always easy for you, and I certainly appreciate you coming, doing this presentation. I want to address the motorcycle and off-road community. I want to thank you also for coming. I want you to fully understand that we as a Board of Supervisors have no say in the use of the land, and really our discussion here is strictly centered on kind of the county road, whether they are county roads or not. I want to encourage you, though, to contact both Congressman Farr's office and let them know that you are in support of HR 1776, and I guess it still goes by that number, and also contact your own congressman and our senator's office. Let them know that there is a support for this bill, and let's get this out of the subcommittee and on into the full House and Congress and get it passed and onto the president's desk. That is essentially the main way of being able to reopen Clear Creek to off-road motorized vehicle use again. I want to state that I have a hard time, whether they're county roads or non-county roads, putting up gates and then requiring private property owners that they have to jump through hoops to get to their private property. Be it just a permit today, tomorrow it'll be a permit with a price tag on it. I have a hard time dealing with that. I think I could say I have the consensus of the board. I think we could, if Mr. Cooper is willing to meet with our county council and his council, I think we can make that happen.
And in the meantime, you're committing to keeping the gates open?
Well, we probably, from the point of time of this meeting, where we were announcing the fact that the gates would be a mechanism by which we would implement and deal with the permitting, I had never intended on closing the gates at least for another 30 days from this point in time anyways. So even though we were going to start implementation on the 14th, we might not even have the gates in. It got pretty wet out there, so we might not even have the gates fixed and set up the way we want to have them. So I'm committed not to have those gates closed for 30 days, and in that meantime, if we can get together and effect a discussion, then we can go from there with the board from there. I'd be glad to come back and revisit that with the board as to where we go from there.
Okay, so we'll probably have this on our agenda at a future date before anything happens with those roads.
I would be okay with that. Yeah. As long, as I say, 30. I'd like to do it in a short time frame. It's certainly, in terms of our implementation, even though there are some inconveniences, it does help our law enforcement deal with what they need to deal with out there. It's going to help them. So.
And I want to seek council advice on this, and I don't want to cause any problem with the direction we just gave, but do we have to go forward with an appeal?
Yes, we can certainly meet with the BLM and BLM's council to have whatever discussions are appropriate. In the meantime, though, there is a deadline to appeal the local office's decision, and that appeal has to be filed by March 14th. The notice of appealing has to be filed by the county by March 14th.
So again, we have direction to go forward with the appeal.
Mr. Chairman, I think we certainly need to go forward with the appeal in concern of the management plan itself, the land uses and the impacts that it has on our county. The roads is another issue.
Okay. So is that clear enough direction to?
So we will be pursuing the appeal of the agency's decision, making sure that we file the notice of appeal prior to March 14th. In the meantime, I would suggest that Mr. Cooper and your attorney contact my office as soon as possible, and we will arrange a meeting with you as soon as possible.
That would be fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rick. With that, I think we will break for lunch. I apologize to all the property owners that were waiting for agenda 11, but we will reconvene at 1:30. Thank you.
My motion is going to be exactly that, an appeal, and that we meet to discuss the 2477, so it doesn't matter.